right, let's start. Welcome everybody to the Stand Up for FPGA team for Open Research Institute. Today is the 5th of July, 2022. And the first thing that I'm going to share with everyone is the update on integrating the DVB encoder for the downlink. The repository that this work is currently in, there's several involved, of course. The intellectual property or the IP block for the encoder is DVB FPGA. The repository that integrates it with the ADRV 9371 and the ZC706, which is the dev board that we have in the lab, is a repository named ADI ADRV 9371 ZC706. Okay, all that's kind of a mouthful, and we'll have some links in the edited video. But the repository that you use in order to get this integration is almost working completely flawlessly. What you do is you clone the repository, you go to the right directory, and then type make. And our efforts to integrate, we left out a few files. So I completed an issue on the repository and listed the missing files. So there are some missing files that are in the reference design from ADI that did not make it all the way over to our particular integration. And there's a hard-coded path. And once those things are fixed, then the integration works. So that's some good news. And what we've been doing in the lab is with the patched repository, attempting to get the encoder actually stitched in. So when you clone the repository and run make, the encoder is not hooked up. And there's a reason for that. The reference design bus widths are 128 bits wide. The encoder takes in 32 and delivers 32 bits. So the bus widths needed to be modified. We talked about that last week. This actually is not terribly difficult if you have the right attitude. And we started out by thinking that we had to modify the bus widths all the way down the transmitter chain. This turns out to not be the case. So thank you to Ken Easton and others for pointing this out. So what we did is we changed the bus widths from the DMA controller to the DAC FIFO. So those went from 128, as you can see in the top drawing, which is the reference design, to 32, and then the encoder is stitched in and dropped into that. And you can see that represented in the lower part of this diagram. And we tested the bus widths before we dropped in the encoder, and everything worked as expected. So that was good to get past that. So now the encoder is in there. Now the way that the reference design worked, we have DMA access, and we send out symbols. So obviously that's not going to work anymore. Now the DVB encoder is expecting to get baseband frame data from DMA. So that's the next part of what we're working on. So big steps forward, and this is all as a target is demonstrations coming up for various events. The first one will be in mid-August at DEF CON. So we're trying very hard to get that to work. Okay, let's see what else. This design is in Remote Labs West. It's also stood up at Remote Labs UK. Anshul, who's in charge of the Remote Labs in the UK, is traveling this week, but he reports all sorts of parallel success. So you can interact with the DMA controller, and he's writing using a C program that I shared with him. It's running on the processor side. The big step forward that we've all taken to be able to do DMA and to run things a little easier is to get IIO, or industrial input output, running correctly in Petalinux. So we've seen that IIO works great with the Kuiper build, and it really hasn't been working for us with Petalinux, and there's a reason for that. You need to it involves adding a Yocto layer called meta-ADI to the Petalinux build. Otherwise, as we found out, IIO appears to be there, but it really isn't. So this procedure will be included today in the Petalinux guide and the Remote Labs documentation. So this allows us to use IIO, lib IIO, and things like PyADI that rely on lib IIO. And now it's working the same way that it was working for the Kuiper Linux build. So that's what I have here. I will stop sharing and go to, how about James? Tell us how it's going, what you've been up to, and if you need anything or have any roadblocks.
Thank you, Michelle. As always, I'm James Wheeler III, Kilo Juliet 7 Kilo Delta Echo, the technician working with ORI at Remote Lab South. Currently, there's not too much to report. We're having a slight break in some of our work as we had 4th of July celebrations yesterday, and we have some family visiting the area currently, though we've still been continuing cleaning up the area that the lab is going to be in, getting all of that ready. We don't have any major roadblocks to report right now or anything in particular of interest, mostly just sitting in this week to listen in on everyone else's progress.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Paul, it's all you.
Okay, well, it's going to be short because all my work has been in support of the work you've already described. There's also work going on the uplink, but no big leaps ahead in progress on that to report. No roadblocks, nothing going on especially interesting in the remote lab here. So that's it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, the uplink work is coming along. So thank you very much for that. I think the critical path that remains for getting a complete end-to-end demonstration running is the receiver. We haven't really we don't have a demonstration of the receiver or a recent demonstration of the receiver. We have an older demonstration of the polyphase channelizer that was done using RF NOC and GNU radio. So what we want to do is actually have that deployed purely on the dev board, and then moving forward on the Zincs. So we don't have that. And then the scheduler, which is where all of the interesting stuff happens for multiplexing and quality of service, right now is simply a FIFO. So that won't be on the FPGA. That will most likely, according to everybody's advice, be done in firmware or software. So we do have some new people that are interested in working on that and turning it into actual code versus mostly on a whiteboard. So the scheduler stuff and all the things that need to happen for it is mainly whiteboard work at this point. Yeah, no, things are going well. I know that might jinx it, but we've had steady incremental improvements for our remote access, and it's shaping up. Very excited about Remote Lab South. We have some things that are going to be happening in the next couple of weeks there. All right, I think that's it for active project reports. Open the floor for questions, and Rick, if you have anything to say, please feel free to share it.
Oh, all I can say is I'm very frustrated. I'm working on projects not too dissimilar from yours. And every time I update the schematics and PC layout, I find out more parts that I put on there are no longer available.
Yeah, I think we have nothing but empathy for you.
I would hope.
Nothing but empathy. It's been a very big battle to get parts all up and down the spectrum.
The good news is, I see I put up my new QSL card. I have an antenna, and I finally got an Illicraft K4 radio, and I'm back on the air after a year of being off the air from the move out here to Colorado.
Oh, very good. Congratulations. Yeah, I have, let's see, a little bit of a report since I think we're safe to say that we have concluded the stand-up. But I have a proposal for our uplink protocol for the University of Puerto Rico to use in their sounding rocket and then in CubeSat. So that's a big step forward. And then there's a number. If it we have a project with a commercial company that also does open source R&D for a deep space project. So I'm looking for any and all opportunities to put this sort of work, broadband, digital, open source work on missions. So it just takes some persistence and showing up and delivering things and designs and ideas and being supportive and collaborative, and eventually it'll work.
Well, I like the look of your design. I'd sure like to build a copy of it one of these days.
All right, any last comments or questions from anybody before we close for the day? All right, thanks everybody. Keep up on Slack with the work on the pull requests and making sure that we properly feed the encoder and get over the air downlink demo. That's going to be exciting. And then weekly reports and other updates will go out to the mailing list. Yeah, any questions you have or any resources that you need, just get in touch. All right, everybody. See you soon.